in Dubai today. I am in Los Angeles, and today I'm going to be discussing a very unique topic compared to what we usually discuss, but it's very much all connected. Today we're going to be talking about biohacking, which is by far the key to the future of health and wellness. I'm super excited about my guest today because not only do I know her personally, but also I just admire her work. She's an extremely empowering woman. She's just written a book called Biohacking Bestie. She's a travel influencer, and I used to follow her ever since she started. She's a TV personality, a dancer, a podcast host, you name it, so she does it all. And today, she's gonna be helping us understand everything we need to know about biohacking. I'm so excited to dive deep into this. Aggie, I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. I don't think I've ever read a book so quickly.
Aww.
Aggie, you're amazing. So I was looking at a wide array of things that you do, and I'm like, okay, so TV personality, travel influencer, one of your first followers, podcast host, you have basically skydived out of many planes.
So did you. So that's what we have in common.
It's just amazing. You've done a TEDx talk, and you now are a best-selling author. How do you get time to jump out of a plane and all these things that you do?
We were just plotting. It was like, oh, Nyla's here. We should definitely jump out of a balloon. And we're like, when can we ask her to go? But it's an early morning trip, so we've been planning to drag you out of bed at 4 a.m. Yeah, I was like, we should go because it would be fun. It gets harder, obviously, especially when you're not in Dubai and it's a bit of a drive and it's not as warm. And I don't love jump. I don't like jumping in winter. I'm like
me either. I was just telling Jacob, and I was like, it's just too cold right now.
Yeah,
that's we're so spoiled in Dubai. I'm so excited that I actually get to talk to you because other than knowing you personally, I really honestly admire everything that you do. I don't know where you get the energy. Now that I read the book, I know how you have all the secrets. So I want to go back to who Aggie is. Okay. What makes you who you are as a human? Can you tell me the most influential moments in your early years that make you who you are right now?
Oh, wow, that's such a good question. Wow, no one asked me this. This is really good. I think there are so many little moments that we don't really see how much they shape us because often we don't even remember until sometimes we have these flashbacks that make us feel like they make sense. I think it's just I always think everything is happening for a reason, that a lot of times we think like, oh, my childhood was hard or wasn't as ideal or whatever it might be, but it's exactly what you needed to become the person you had to become. Mm-hmm. And so all that grit and hardship and energy and all of that came from my humble upbringing, and just realizing that from one hand it's beautiful. It's not about the money. The world is so much more beautiful. It's about nature and connection and living your purpose. But at the same time, growing up with my dad who had a lot of health issues growing up and he would have been a biohacker, if he had access to that, because he was constantly reading medical books and was trying to figure out what to do. But unfortunately, he would then go to a doctor, and the doctor would prescribe him X, Y, and Z. And so he was constantly kind of going from one antibiotic to another and
misdiagnosed.
And misdiagnosed, always struggling with health, and watching that and watching my mom struggle with her weight her entire life and really just getting really angry because there's the misconception that people that are bigger or are overweight are lazy, or uneducated, or they don't have the willpower or self-discipline, and that for me growing up was really painful to hear because I saw my mom and I saw that she isn't any of these things. She's the most wonderful human, but she didn't understand how the biology works. So she was doing calorie restriction that worked for her a little bit, but then she would yo-yo back. And so every time she tried to lose weight, it was harder and more difficult for her. So I see how perfect my childhood was because I was traveling, then I got sick, and I was like, oh, that's perfect because I come into biohacking from this perspective of someone who's been on the other end, and so parents that were really struggling with their health one way or another, and just saying that I don't want to do that, and I want other parents and other people do the same,
Is that what fueled it all?
I think so. I didn't realize until recently of how much of an impact it had on me, to the point that that's the energy behind. Because I was like, fuck, I see so many people that don't feel fucking incredible in their bodies, like most people on the planet. And then you realize that if we only could, we would be more patient, kinder, women would be more supportive, the X, Y, and Z. And you can't even blame people for being mean or rude or not understanding, because that's what they are to themselves and each other. So I feel like when you feel good in your body, when you have a good day, you walk down the street or when you love, you're like, everything's good and you're patient. And so like we operate on such little sleep or such shit quality sleep. I mean, you're a mom, so you would know, like, that's like next level lack of sleep. And I think it's just like that what makes me, I first got into like coaching people and like Tony Robbins, and then even Tony says like, you need to change your state. And if your state and your energy isn't right, you cannot even make a decision in that state, because the answer will always be no, right? If you're feeling shit in your body. So no amount of Tony Robbins can get you out of the funk unless you actually feel healthy. So
exactly. And I loved so many things. First thing I resonated with in the book was when you said that you were like obsessed with being skinny and it was for all the wrong reasons, and then you were dedicated to being vegan. I'm reading my own story right now. And I used to be like, wait, if I eat this, and I should be skinny. And I was like the skinniest I've ever been, but also I was losing my hair and I was breaking out. And then I literally was reading that in the book and I was like, oh my God. So that really tells us that it's so much more from like a deeper reason. So tell me, okay, for people who don't know, a quick little brief explanation what biohacking is.
Yeah, it's literally hacking your biology. So you have two options, whether you want to feel amazing, lose weight, reverse your biological age, you name it. You can either do it against your biology, which is a little bit like fitness advice that is based on the studies from the 80s that were just run on college men, 21-year-old men, not a single female, because menstruating female were not included in studies. So all of those diets are based on studies that were not done on women. Or you can hack your biology, your female biology, which is your infradian rhythm, living according to your cycle, that like feeling great and looking and eating healthy is effortless. Because I don't want to live in a world of restrictions, of rigid rules, I call them preferences. There are no more rules. They're like preferences. Sure, prefer healthier food, but you're not going to die. And so that has helped me like realize that like I eat anything I want. I don't use any willpower, and I feel great and I look great, and I don't want to be if anything, I have one wish, like with biohacking, wish to be less stressed, because that's like the big one for me, with traveling and lack of sleep.
Of course. But it's inevitable.
Yeah.
How can you not be stressed?
But I feel like I have such a healthy relationship with food. And if you're a woman and you're listening to this, you probably have heard so much advice about what to eat and what not to eat, even if you didn't ask for it. Just by the pure fact you live on this planet, you have been bombarded. Don't eat this, don't eat that.
Yeah.
And it's fucking overwhelming. And it makes you question everything, right? And
so I wish I knew what biohacking was a long time ago. Do you remember the time where everybody was like, eat granola?
Yeah.
And I was like, granola bars and
acai bowl.
Exactly. Waking up, acai bowl and granola bars. And then I remember I had the worst gut issues of my life. I had to get a colonoscopy. They're like, nothing's wrong, da, da, da. And I was like, what's going on? And then I basically I don't even know what happened. I just realized that then I started breaking out in hives. That's, I remember now. I was like breaking out in hives every morning. It's because I was having all these grains and oats and everything. And then I realized that I'm probably intolerant to them. And I was stunting my body for the rest of the day because I was like, oats and granola, that's the way to do it, right?
Yeah, and also oats are 99% of oats in the US have glyphosate, which is a pesticide that they spray on oats so that, you don't get any bugs be eaten by them. But it also means that they can't wash it off. So when you eat oats, you eat glyphosate, which destroys your gut, creates leaky gut.
Oh my God.
So
why don't people tell us that?
Because it's the biggest business, right? So it's like you think that vegan diet is healthy, but on vegan diet you eat soy, corn, and wheat, the three things that are covered in glyphosate.
Yeah.
And glyphosate it creates massive inflammation. It's such a it's a weed killer. It kills everything, and so it creates this biofilm in your gut that creates incredible gut issues. So like unless you're eating organic, and even then some organic oats are cross-contaminated and they have glyphosate. Like that's crazy. So you were just setting yourself off with some proper toxins, with high amount of carbs, that we're just putting on a glucose spike and a big glucose crash, a lot of sugar that was over tiring your liver and all of these things, right?
This just shows that we're so misinformed. This is literally the key to the future of wellness and health. And I think I want the diet industry to die now that I've read this book. But there is can you tell people who think that diets and biohacking are aligned? Is there a misalignment there? What's the difference?
I think biohacking is more like how you eat your food, not exactly what you eat. So I'm not going to tell you don't ever have an acai bowl. I would say have organic acai bowl and don't have it at breakfast. Have it as a dessert, right? So timing is almost more important. The quality is more important, not exactly what, and there are these big fights about be vegan, not be vegan, like be this, be that. Like, I don't know what these diets are called. It's kind of hard to keep up. There's so many names. But at the end of the day, there was this amazing dentist in 1920s. His name was Weston Price, and he did something that cannot be replicated right now. And so in 1920s, he was a dentist, and he's like, fuck, I shouldn't really have a job. Why are the kids having all these tooth decays? And back in the day, people would commit suicide out of a toothache. It was that serious. Wow. And so he was like, I need to figure out, something is fishy here. There's no way nature would create us so that we have toothache. So he decided to look up what are the most remote tribes and villages around the world. So he went to Switzerland. There was this one village that you had to hike all the way up in the mountains, and he wanted to check. They weren't using any food from the outside, and they only drank milk and cheese and butter. And bread, which is the things that we're not supposed to be having. Super healthy, super high cheekbones. And the women gave birth at ease at night with their husband asleep next to them.
What?
Without crying. And the babies never cried. And he's like, this is really weird. And so he traveled to the Gaelic people and the Eskimo people and Aboriginal people. So he basically, now it's impossible to even get to that many different various cultures that are separated from the modern world. And so what he discovered is this. The moment we process our foods and grains, we get underdeveloped bone structures, which means that women's hips don't get underdeveloped. And that means that because it's not like women are weak these days because they can't give birth. Your bones are underdeveloped because you're malnourished.
Wow.
And so if a mother is malnourished, you're going to give birth to malnourished children, right? So we're multiple generations into that. So when this part of your brain, the palate, gets underdeveloped, you get crooked teeth, right? And there's not enough room. And now we have the orthodontist. I wore braces forever, right? Because that just basically means that I'm going to have so much fun giving birth. But anyways, but that's basically the idea. And so what he discovered, well, there's one tribe that only ate meat. There was one tribe that was vegan. A little bit of they were eating ants, so maybe not fully vegan. But what he realized is that as long as food is raw, unpasteurized, processed, good quality, without all these chemicals, we're good. Doesn't matter really what you eat because it depends where you live, right? It doesn't even matter if it's macro breakdown. It's the fact that we process it so much. And so it's kind of sad to notice that people didn't ever have to brush their teeth, and they chew their food, and they were super, super healthy.
Wow.
And here we are, all of these
new processed food.
Yeah, because there's, especially in the US, where the profit is ahead of everything else.
Everything, on top, of course. And I think I read also there's research that's showing that mental health disorders have spiked ever since the 60s and have not actually gone down. And do you think that's linked to food?
100%, because 90% of your serotonin, the feel-good hormone, is made in the gut, right? So, of course, if you're eating food that's processed, you don't have serotonin, so you will feel depressed, low, and overwhelmed, right? And add the fact that, you know, you create leaky gut, inflammation. I mean, we can go on and on, like on the tangent about like mental health, but like I just had Dr. Stephen Gundry on my podcast, and he said he's 72. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing. And he basically said this: when I was doing my university, the autoimmune disease was so rare that when we had to have a test at the end of the year, we would get a funny question. And that was an autoimmune question about anything, whether it's Hashimoto or lupus or whatever, PCOS. He said, like, now 95% of his patients have an autoimmune disease. Yeah. Which is not only fact, because what's even more disturbing is that 80% of all autoimmune disease are women. That means that you and I are like 5 times more likely than, for example, Jacob to get on autoimmune disease.
It's so unfair. And also the entire biohacking industry is extremely underserved for women. And that's why I love what you're doing. Can you just tell me if there's any like pro-depressive foods?
Processed foods, anything that's processed. Yeah, and also sugar depletes your D1, D2 receptors in the brain. So that basically means that dopamine, right? So if you think you're addicted to your phone or you're addicted to scrolling, you're going to be addicted to sugar because it's all connected. So I know that living without sugar is hard, and we often are in this... I don't know. I feel like it's, if you hack your biology, I just had a cookie before the podcast, but I ate it from a place of like, I'll just have a bite. And I can't even like have a full cookie by myself because I just don't feel the need. Like,
me too.
It's like, oh, cool. Like, I'll have it. Well, 2 years ago, I would use all the willpower in the world not to have six cookies.
The whole, yeah. And that shows that your body was screaming for regularity and discipline. So when you started to do this, your body actually needed less of it.
Yeah, and also like my biology is so healthy. I have all the nutrients. I don't have glucose spikes. My blood sugar, my cortisol, like all of these things are...
Do you measure it all?
You can.
Yeah.
There's some like signs, right? So with glucose, if you get bitchy, if you get like you have that 4 p.m. coffee crash, that's like a good... You probably have a glucose crash. Waking up at night, like between 2 to 5, is like a good example that your glucose is out of whack, right?
Really? Oh my God. This is me. I honestly crash twice a day, and I think I'm eating healthy. I mean, I don't know. I had avocado on toast this morning, and then I completely crashed, almost fell asleep at the wheel today. And then I wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm so thirsty, Aggie. Like, actually feels like I'm hungover, but I'm not drinking. Yeah. So it's so weird. I've had this thirst problem for so long where I literally am constantly stressed. Is that cortisol? And if anyone asks me, I mask it so well because people are like, either I mask it well or I mask it to the point where it's like really not good. Like I need to not do that because people are like, are you stressed? I'm like, no, I think I'm handling it pretty well. But then
it's literally what I say in the book towards the very end that like when you were told in childhood that you made someone angry or whatever you did made someone feel a certain way, you're going to be really good about covering how you really, really feel. Yeah. You know, because all of a sudden it's like, I don't want to make people angry. I don't want to make people upset.
Or worried about me. So I'm like, I'm fine.
Yeah, so you play the adult as a child. So then you grow up and you learn to disconnect with your emotions because the only signal, I mean, I know I did that. My parents were amazing people, but obviously they didn't have the education, the emotional intelligence at that point in their life to help me, you know? And so it was very common for moms. So you made dad angry, go please apologize, you know? It's, you know, it's like say that to a 5-year-old about an adult man is a little bit wrong. So what did I learn? That, I make people upset, I make people sad, I make people angry. Yeah. And as a child, you don't even understand why. I was just being myself, right? So what do you learn? To like suppress, right? And whatever you suppress or don't express will come up as a disease in the body, right? So that cortisol, it's literally what I was just talking to on a podcast just now, because Darren Olin, he's amazing, big dude. And he's like, what's different about being a man and a man? I'm like, ask any woman, and this is my question. When was the last time you felt somewhat unsafe? You live in a bio, so it's a little easier. But
I was just walking on Melrose, and I literally was walking so quickly and looking behind me because
when
this
was
city has
this?
changed literally today.
Yeah. And so I said, I even got goosebumps because I don't know a woman who didn't feel like prey in the last month or 2 or 3. It's like you walk down the street at night, someone walks up faster, and you immediately go into like this fight or flight. So we are running on a very different program than Darren, who's like a big dude, and he's like, fuck, I never get scared for my health and life. And
yeah, people are not looking into what we need in research.
yeah, and then we feel like, why women are stressed? I'm like, well, walk on the street as a woman. It's, you know, you have to be everything, right? So not only you're worried about your well-being as you walk the streets, and we somewhat, I feel like you and I live in somewhat like safe environments. I can't imagine when you live in not so safe environment or
and you have to
neighborhood.
protect your kids, and you're constantly stressed, and your cortisol levels are probably extremely spiked.
And so like obviously for a guy, I was like, wait, let's add calorie restriction on that you don't feel safe. And then you see like, well, I'm hungry now and it's not working, I must not be disciplined enough. No, you're absolutely struggling because your cortisol level is so high, so you need to do less, not more. And I think it's just like, it's just such a hard thing for women that, you know, we need to be moms, we need to be great moms, we need to have a career, or we want to have a career, but then we feel guilty that we're not good enough moms. If we, and everyone else is judging you for being whatever.
Yeah.
And it just feels like we put ourselves in this cage that no matter if you give people shit for free, they still will be upset.
Yeah.
And even about this podcast, like you give so much value, and people are like, I don't like this. Everything should be free, and you should be with your daughter, but also post all
working.
the time.
Yeah,
and it's like, you be successful, but not too successful.
Yeah,
so that you don't intimidate men. It's just like you cannot win, and I think it's just like that constantly. I know from myself, like there's always something else that you should be doing, but also you should be more feminine and let go and not be so driven because, you know, that's not very feminine and attractive and whatnot. So it's like really like a big cage that stresses us out. And I think we need to like get together as women and write a new narrative where we're just like, fuck it, we're not gonna, we need to get comfortable disappointing people. Yeah. I need to learn that too.
I love that. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why I really like the book, because it does come from like a kind of like somebody, you're talking to your sister, and it's like very empowering. And I love the beginning where it's like, just fucking do whatever you want, but just, you know when to do it. And I like that. But it's true. Like the pressure is, and I don't know like if there's ever going to be a day where it's like, I don't feel the pressure, or maybe you don't feel the pressure. It just feels impossible because it does feel like everyone's asking of something. And like for this trip, for me to come and do this, I had to leave my daughter, and like literally every single day I'm like, I'm a bad mom, I'm this, or maybe this is why I'm thirsty. Like, I've drank like 11 of these today. I like probably should get it checked. But so my question is like, if I biohack perfectly, yet my stress levels are high, is that going to counteract what I'm doing with food? Yeah.
I think,
so I really got to work on my stress.
Well, and I think you have to also see that you're an amazing mom, you know, and really let that sink in, you know, because it's like, what do you want your daughter to see? You know, she's going to see your energy and how happy you are and what you're doing. And when I think about my mom, if I want her to, you know, I want to see her happy. Of course, I want to spend every second with her, but also she gave me the permission to be myself and follow my dreams. And I think that's the most important, right? And it's like letting yourself, like not beating yourself up and really actually seeing how much you're already doing.
That must be how you've been able to do everything that you've done, because when I read the list of things that you've done, it feels like I've read like 6 people's job description, and I'm like, wow. So I commend you for that. I'm very proud of you. What about babies? This was supposed to be my question at the very end, but I'm so excited to ask you that. How is, well, first of all, I guess biohacking affects your fertility, right?
Yes.
So have you been inspired to do that as well for your fertility reasons?
Yes. So it gets very, very touchy because I celebrate everyone's choices, and I totally understand whether people want to freeze eggs, not want to have kids young, whatever it is. And just because this is my decision doesn't mean that I think that your decision is wrong. But I was very much into freezing eggs and just kind of like giving myself that freedom to have kids later. And almost started the process, went to a doctor, and she was like, great, you should be doing it just in case, because it's like insurance, you never know, you're fertile, but who knows what's going to happen. Pregnancies over, I'm 36, so pregnancies over 35 are considered
High risk
geriatric pregnancies, right? So I was like, okay, great. And then I discovered biohacking, and I realized there's so many things we can do as women to extend our fertility, whether it's through supplements, peptides that we can inject. And if you do decide to freeze your eggs, you're overstimulating your hormones, right? So like your ovaries. And so with me, I think I have, at the last time I checked a couple of months ago, it was like 27 follicles, which is quite high.
Yeah.
So stimulate that into a place where the eggs can be retrieved is a very invasive process, but your body then down regulates. So the doctors I had access to, not the mainstream doctors, but biohacking doctors, said that women that have had their eggs retrieved go through perimenopause and menopause much sooner, just because your body then regulates. No one ever told me this when I was thinking about doing eggs.
No one is saying this at all. It's like a trending thing where everyone's like filming their journey on freezing their eggs, but it's like...
Yeah, it's almost like it's a... And I celebrate the women that have the courage to do it, because sometimes, like... You and I are exposed to 168 chemicals a day. All of these chemicals are confusing your endocrine system. So the fact that you're not fertile or you can't get pregnant, it's not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you. And I think that's like a big feeling of like, oh my God, I'm not fertile.
Yeah.
And I'm fertile right now. By the time I want to have kids in 6 or 12 months, I might not be able to say that. And I'm not even saying that I would be against freezing my eggs, but it has to come from an informed place, just like the pill. Doctor needs to inform you, like, hey, you're going to have higher chances of perimenopause sooner because of freezing your eggs. And so just be okay with that. And sure, if you still choose to do that, great, you made that decision from an informed place.
Yeah.
But my decision about freezing eggs was like, no side effects. You should be doing this. Is so much fun.
Yeah.
It's better to have it. Like, it's almost like it's best to do it at 21. I'm like, no, it's not to best do it at 21 because it's there are so many things you can do that it's proven, like, taking M&M. There are a lot of peptides like epitalin that extends your fertility. So there's many ways that we can extend our fertility, quote unquote, naturally or through biohacking. That doesn't
Again, the root of the problem, right? Like working from the root of the problem rather than using other outside sources to try to change the superficial things. Wow, I had no idea. You know how many of my friends are freezing eggs, and I'm like,
I know, same. And I was like, again, I have goosebumps because it really is like this whole, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, maybe a little bit, but like, I think women are allowed to do it, whether you want to do Botox. I put fillers in my lips, I had my boobs down. Like, it's not about like not doing shit. Fucking do it. Freeze your eggs, take the pill, get your boobs done, but like do it from an informed place.
Right.
Like, just be aware of the consequences. And the doctors are not informing women of all the consequences, right?
How many doctors I've been to, especially gut doctors, and I had no idea that I was spiking my glucose levels by doing these certain things. I never knew about intolerances. I've done every, like, the FODMAP thing and everything, and it's just like, I never knew that you had to eat your veggies, like simple things, like eat your veggies first before you eat your protein and then your sugar last. Is that true?
But isn't it like, I feel like your grandma would say the same thing. Like my mom growing up, and my grandma was like, eat vegetables and meat first, you can leave potatoes and stuff. Like that was like the whole thing of like...
I don't know, my family's messed up. They did not inform me anything. I want to ask you so many questions today, so I have to be picky because we don't have that much time. But tell me the biggest myth that women believe in weight loss.
I think that calorie restriction would work for them. That's
calorie in, calorie out.
Yeah, that it's like if you're going to be in calorie deficit, you're going to lose weight. And I think it works. and science proves it. You know, we have science on men and women, but I think women are so much more complex, and we're the ones that are keeping the species alive. And if you're under eating, you're essentially more likely to lose your period, right? Because it's like, what you're essentially telling your body's like, it's not safe to have kids. You know, she's under eating. There's no food, not enough food. There's no time to have babies. And I don't care if you lose weight. If you lost your period at the same time, like, that's not good.
That's not healthy.
Yeah. And so we have 4 vital signs, and women have 5th, and the 5th one is period. So your period is an indication of how healthy you are.
You need to pay attention.
Yeah. And so that is your superpower. Like, speaking of the pill, I was never, have you ever been on the pill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have.
Have you ever been told that, like, hey, when you're on the pill, you will not be ovulating, and what are the benefits of ovulation?
No, I was just told that this could have either side effects, and all side effects I was given were all opposites. They're like, you could bleed a lot, or you could bleed not at all, or you could, ovulate, or you could not ovulate, or you could do this, and everything they told me was so contradictory. And for me, the answer, what ended up happening was I didn't have a period at all. And that's why when I was reading the book, I was like, wait a minute, what do you do if you just don't have a period, if you want to track your menstrual cycle? That just shows that the pill will throw off the biohacking plan anyway, right? Because how could I plan what my body's doing if I'm not even getting a cycle?
Yeah, so what pill basically does is tricks your body into thinking it's like pre-pregnancy, right? So you aren't getting ovulation, you're not even getting your period, it's like a bleeding. And the bleeding actually was created by, when the first pill came out, there was no period at all. And I don't want to say church, but that's essentially a story. They were like, that doesn't seem right. Can we just do stop the pill for like a week so they get the bleeding? But the bleeding isn't actually the period. It's just mid-menstrual, it's not a period, it's bleeding. Long story short, the biggest part about the pill, the problem, apart from depleting you from minerals and giving you depression and all sorts of issues and destroying your gut, is the fact that you don't get ovulation, right? And ovulation is your superpower. I have never been set down in 5th grade or since by a doctor and said, like, hey, do you know what ovulation is? And do you know it's not just about you getting pregnant around ovulation. It makes your bones stronger, helps you with insulin and glucose. It makes you more attractive. You're more likely to get a raise when you're ovulating. Strippers that were ovulating were getting twice as many tips than the one on the pill.
I love this.
So it's like you consider more attractive. It's like nature's biohack to get you pregnant, right? So she's gonna help with your hair, help with your skin. You get stronger like around ovulation because your testosterone's peaking. So you literally have this superpower for 3 days or every month.
Yeah.
Where this photo has been taken during ovulation.
You look amazing. Yeah.
This is and this is not ovulation, but it's you just like it just feels good, and you like.
And no one tells us that. And then we're just
but we also feel horny, and we like embrace our sexuality and feel good in our bodies.
Yeah.
And we want to hunt for men. But like, no, we're going to block all of that, So
it's like an antidepressant, but for your period.
Yeah.
It just mute you.
It's a mute
natural
button.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, I'm like, why? Sure, you can give me the pill, but wouldn't it be nice to inform me about all the side effects?
I was never told any of that stuff. And I was never told that I was going to have severe depression on it. And now I'm not on it anymore. And I do realize that I crave foods at certain times of my cycle. And then, I can tell that I react to certain foods differently in certain parts of the month, which kind of was part of the whole thing of listening to your body, because like I was paying attention for the first time because I had a point of reference, which was my period. Otherwise, I don't know what the hell's going on, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I bloated? Why am I feeling like this? Whatever. Like now I know, and I track it. And I feel like I'm the happiest. Yeah, I'm happiest, most glowing when I ovulate, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, so it's like I think again, it's just like. My whole point was just to like give the guy to women into their own bodies. It's like a roadmap of like, this is what's happening in your body.
Yeah.
And so don't treat it like, oh my God, I'm broken because calorie restriction doesn't work, or I'm broken because I'm bloated, which is what I used to think of myself. I don't know if you remember when we met in was it Monaco, Monte Carlo, whatever.
Yeah.
That was like at my lowest. So I was so
Really?
ill. And my skin was full of acne. I was so depressed. And I was just thinking like, oh my God, I'll never have energy. I wasn't even jealous about skin or hair. It was just like I look someone who has a lot of energy. I was like, fuck, like I'll never. I'm like, I'm old, because it was like 32 or whatever. And now I'm like 36 and I have more energy than most people.
Really?
And I don't even drink coffee. But
and you don't drink coffee? Wow.
No.
Why don't you drink coffee?
I just have too much energy. I feel like
what?
I'm at that point that I have done a very good, I'll tell you after, I did like a really cool peptide therapy and essentially killed my zombie cells about 4 months ago. And since then, I wake up at 5 a.m. I'm like bursting with energy.
I wake up at 5 a.m., but I wake up because I'm thirsty and I'm tired, but I'm awake. It's weird. I need to know more about this. Actually, there is something that I always ask, like the most interesting people always have so much to say about this. What do you think about, sorry to veer off a little bit, but since I have you right here, what do you think about the psychedelic space? And how does that come into, or does it at all come into a biohacking plan?
If it was up to me, I would get everyone on ayahuasca.
Yeah.
So I'm about to sit with her next week, actually next weekend. So,
no way.
Yeah.
I was supposed to do it this past weekend, and then I did the toad.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it was, oh my God, it was honestly the best. I can't even, there are no
You mean
words.
like the bufo, right? Like the
bufo.
Yeah. Oh, wow,
Have you done it?
Yes. But
It's amazing. But I did it with a guide who I'm pretty sure just like, he's like, I don't know what, he's a prophet or something, because he guided it so well. He put on the right music, and I should give you his number. He's in Topanga.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was the most life-changing thing. I felt like, not to hijack it, because I want to hear about ayahuasca. I was almost going to do it this weekend. But I felt like I saw God within, and I was like, my inner universe was talking to me and telling me the most key things. And I went back to my Airbnb by myself, and I journaled for like so many hours, just listening to the song again that he put on, trying to remember what I learned. And the most things I learned was trust your intuition, trust your body, surrender to your own decisions, because I'm so bad at feeling like an imposter everywhere, and imposter with my own decisions. So if I make a decision, I'm like if we hang out, I'll literally be like, whatever you want, Aggie, you make the decision, because I'm so scared to make to be like loud. And even though it sounds like I'm loud, I'm actually not. I struggle with that, and I always let people lead the way. So it was basically telling me that everything that I need is already inside me.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, it was profound. Tell me about ayahuasca.
I realize it's not for everyone, and there's this I have to be careful, because there's a part of me I'm just like, everyone should do it. Come on, it's amazing. But I also understand maybe psychedelics aren't exactly like the medicine that everyone needs. For me, it has been the most life-changing experience, only because, again, it reminded me of my power. I think that trajectory and people seeing the success and this and that, but it completely helped. It humbles you, but it also empowers you. And so she really reminded me of my mission, and big part of I didn't even want to do biohacking. She was like, oh, you're gonna have to bring it to the world. I'm like, oh, I didn't want to, because I wanted to do other things. And it became very, very clear that that I need to really value myself. And I think I still am learning to do that. And I think, with the book, I was like, what's the lowest I can offer the book? So then Amazon doesn't even let you go lower than a certain price because of the shipping and the printing. And so I'm not even make money on this book. And I'm like, because I believe this is my message. But then I'm like, but I literally tell women that this is your message, and you should be paid a lot of money and not be embarrassed about it, you know? Yeah. So it's the conundrum that I'm still learning, that I want to understand that.
But maybe it's part of your own journey as well, because I learned that I feel like when you start to truly heal, it's when you spread the word. I felt like the times in my life where I was feeling sorry for myself and in a victim position, I was hurt and I wasn't healing. I was just a hurt person, maybe hurting people, maybe just hurting myself. And then in a healing journey, it's when you're spreading the word and not asking for anything else.
You're just showing up vulnerably. But for me, that has been it's been, I think, 6 months since I sat with Aya last time, and I was like, I know it's a busy time for me with the book launch, but I really want to just like surrender and let her work magic, because it's just like, it's the most humbling experience. Holy shit, you feel like you're losing your mind, which is your ego.
it with you.
Do it.
Yeah.
You can.
Where are you
next
going?
weekend. I have to tell you off camera.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I'm a true, like, just psilocybin in general has like changed my life. I microdose, and I just think everybody should try it. And actually, they should listen to your episode with the founder of Supermosh.
Yeah.
That was a
Ali.
really good episode for people who are like, have an aversion to mushrooms and magic mushrooms and whatever their benefits are. If they've not seen fantastic fungi, whatever. I know a lot of people who are like, mushrooms, oh my God. But actually, like, they're actually very healthy for your brain and for your body.
And that was my first like real ceremony before ayahuasca. I went to Costa Rica for a mushroom ceremony where you like mega dose mushrooms, and you literally connect to like, I just remember the mushrooms were like, we've seen it all, we've been around. Like, so the whole idea that mushrooms are underneath and all connected to each other. And they have seen everything, you know, all the heartbreak. And we're not original here, you know. It's been tens of thousands of years of women struggling and people having their heart broken, and moms and fathers. And, you know, it's all happened before. You know, our story is by no means original, but that was just so beautiful to be held by nature and just reminded of like, wow, nature really has our back.
Yeah. That's what it took me into like generations of certain things. And I just felt like I was breaking like a karmic pattern, but I was understanding and accepting for the first time in my life that.
And how
people have been
beautiful
through
it is.
that
Like,
stuff.
I don't know exactly your ancestors of your ancestors, but like we never really sit down to even think like what 5 generations ago and how proud they would be of you, right? That it's like, must be so nice.
That's such a good thought.
Yeah. They must be looking at you. And it's like when you're feeling low, it's just, I like to remember my ancestors that I'm like, they came to me during ayahuasca, they were like, you're making us proud. Like we were getting ready for this moment, you know, like I was the first person to leave Europe, you know, to travel outside of Europe, to speak English, to travel the world. Like my ancestors are like, they have my back. We're doing this together. And every single decision they made prepared me to be here.
I think even my ancestors are proud of you.
No, but even for yourself, right? Like
from Poland
you see
and
like
what you've done.
From as women, right? Like breaking free is like, oh wow, shit. Like
we don't
incredible.
take time to ever be proud of ourselves. I think we are really hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's the first few stages of biohacking is like, take it easy. You're not lazy. You're just listening to your body, and it's okay in the beginning if you want to have this and what. Listen to your body. That's
and I think that was
message.
like my biggest message. I was like, okay, I need to like spend the first couple of pages to help you understand that you're not broken.
Yeah.
You're not lazy. You don't need any more self-control. Like, forget it. It's not meant to be painful. Like
No.
it's why
It's meant
are
to
we
be sustainable? Yeah.
And also, like, we're in the wellness space and everyone is miserable. I'm like, no, you don't need to cold plunge to see results. Like, you know, it's not about suffering. And, like, we like fasting 20 hours a day and cold plunging and sweating and doing heavy cardio. And it's just like...
Some people think that if it's not hard, that it's not worth doing. But actually, things can be possible and easy if you
but
take
that's
the
like
right
the
perspective.
wounded masculine, that it has to be very directional and this and that. And we really need to, as women, step up and step in and just say, like, actually, we need to bring that feminine energy. But it's hard to do that when we're so hard on ourselves because we're not living by example.
So true. How's Jacob?
He's good. Yeah, he just came in. No, it's been really, really good. I call him the bioslacker because he's not...
He's not a biohacker.
Not a biohacker. He's a bioslacker. But he's getting better. I can't say. I think it's been really, really nice for him. I think I'll tell you off camera what he's been going through personally, and I think you would really enjoy him as a guest because he has
I told him, I tried to talk him into it when he came here. He's like, no, this is Aggie's face. I'm like, oh, you guys are so cute.
No, but I think I'll tell you later. But yeah, for sure.
So relationships, really quickly. What's the hardest thing that you had to deal with after the breakup? What was the first thing?
Oh my God, so many things. there's definitely that ego, right? That you divorcing or grieving the idea of us being together. For those who don't know, we were together, broke up, then got back together, got engaged, and we have. And
it was the
we're
best engagement, so beautiful.
Oh, he was super nervous, so cute. We're very different. So like, we have an amazing coach, and she always says that we're like exactly the medicine we need for different things for each other. And so we have a beautiful karmic entanglement, and we definitely meant to trigger the fuck out of each other on so many levels. But for me, it was really hard because I think there was, what would be the good explanation? Because I'm trying to be as vulnerable as possible. The first divorcing the idea, when you're like with someone and you feel like, oh, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with this person and they're no longer there. There's all that sadness and silence and like, oh, wow, there's so much space when they're no longer around. And like, you really feel their lack, right? What you think is their lack, but it's actually the deeper sadness that you didn't have time to you've been distracting yourself for. I think what we're still navigating or processing is this idea that I want him, what would be, how to say it? We have very different ways. I'm like very independent. If it was up to me, I would be living off a grid in Topanga, making my own vegetables. So like when we're back in Bali and be a total weirdo and wear a witch hat and kind of just like work on my own business. I'm like an introvert. I get super awkward around people. And he's very social, right? So a lot of times, and he likes like big and corporate things and just kind of like he is doing massive things with massive companies and shooting the best photos for Bugatti, for Mercedes, for Marriott. And for me, that's like, oh my God, like it's literally the very thing that I'm trying to avoid. It's like the grandness of these things and like big events and Formula One. And so that's where I guess butt heads, because I was like, I want to be somewhere in the forest camping and not seeing a human being. And he's like, I want to be at Vegas in Formula One and the first row doing this. So that has been something that we're learning to accept about each other, that like making it work. He's showing me that a lot of times I avoid people because I feel different. And so sometimes it's just like being in my own head and I guess being a little bit more open to experiences that I judge right away would be good.
But I mean, again, what's the line between compromise and caring for what you want? That's the hardest thing in relationships.
And like being okay with him doing his thing. Because it's like, the problem is, I'm 36. It's not my first relationship. And there's always something about someone. Right? And it's like this idea that we need to spend so much time together is something that I need to heal as well, that like we don't need to be exactly the same person and do the exact same thing. And maybe it's okay for him to do something for a week while I do my own thing for a week. And
what's your attachment style? Are you anxious or avoidant?
I think I'm more avoidant, and I think so he's more anxious, as which is not a good combo.
But that's usually how they attract to each other. It's always the avoidant and anxious to find each other. And they ping pong.
Yeah, but we have gotten so much better about it, but I think there's still that level of like, if I really, really love this human, I would love him the way he is. And so me trying to change him so he's more like me is really disqualifying him as a human being, because it's just a very conditional love. And so that would be true for anybody, I can say, like, I wish my mom was just a little bit more patient with me and spend more time with me and this and that. So that has been like my biggest thing. It was just like, there's someone in my life, everyone about my life, that I was like, oh, if that person, can't they see that they're doing the X, Y, and Z? Because that would be so much better. I think what is my medicine is just to love people the way they are, because ultimately, who am I to say that it would have been better if he did X, Y, and Z? I'm not God, you know? So... And if I'm not accepting him, I'm really deep down not truly accepting myself for who I am, because it's like you can't really be so selective. So.
I love that, and that's why you guys are back together.
So this is like we're together.
That's hard to get to.
Yeah, and so we realized that we need to work on our own shit, but not work on changing the other person, because my happiness in this relation doesn't depend. If that person changes, then I'll be happy. I mean, unless you're in a toxic relationship, then you should leave. But like Jacob's not toxic, right? So
you guys are so cute together. Made me so happy when he proposed. So you're looking at 10-year-old you. What would you say to her?
I actually have a photo.
I want to see.
This is I'm 7 here.
Oh my God.
And so the only person
So cute.
Yeah, and so the only person I'm trying to make happy and proud is this girl over here, little Agnieszka. That's my full name in Polish, and just basically checking in with her. I'm like, am I doing okay? And she's like, I got you, I love you, and do more fun things. So I speak to her all the time.
That was
great question.
That's so sweet. I love that it's your wallpaper, because I think we forget so much that we are literally all just who that girl, like the inner child.
That's the girl you're talking to right now.
I love that. You're still just as cute. That's so adorable. I found a picture of us. I need to show it to you later at the Formula One, and we're both like, just standing there with the boys like.
Oh, I want to see it.
Yeah, I'll show you. Your book is amazing. You're amazing. You work so hard, honestly. I mean, standing ovation. And where can people get this book?
You can get it on Amazon. Just type in Biohack Like a Woman. Or if you go to my Instagram at Aggie, then there's a link directly. So yeah, check it out.
Amazing. And what's next for you other than the book?
Rest.
Yes,
and kind of
good.
Like
if you had
what
said
I
another
preach.
book, I wouldn't have been surprised.
No, someone just asked me literally on my way driving here. It's like, Aggie, when is the next book? I'm like, after I sleep for 6 months.
Yes,
so no.
Prioritize that.
Yeah. So
no, it's amazing. Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming.
for having me.
You're
Great
amazing.
questions.
Really
I love this.
appreciate
Good
it.
luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.